In a quiet town called Amuka, there was 4 girls who were inseparable from childhood. Their names were Linda, Hope, Deborah, and Janet. They were not sisters by blood, but their friendship was tighter than any family bond. Their homes were different, their parents raised them differently, but they found peace, laughter, and dreams in one another. Linda's parents were poor farmers. Every morning before school, she would help her mother pick vegetables from the backyard to sell in the local market. Her hands were always rough from work, but her smile was gentle and kind. She was always the one who made peace when others argued. Hope was raised by a single mother who worked as a seamstress. Her father had abandoned them when she was 5, and since then, her mother taught her to be tough and never depend on anyone. Hope was bold, outspoken, and always had a plan. She was the strongest among them. Deborah came from a very strict Christian home. Her father was a pastor, and her mother was a teacher. She was the calmest of the 4, always praying, always quoting Bible verses. But behind that holy look was a heart full of deep desires to be free like the others. Janet was the only child of wealthy parents. Her father was a businessman, and her mother owned a salon. Janet never lacked anything growing up. She wore the best clothes, used expensive creams, and spoke with confidence. Yet, she loved the other girls dearly and never looked down on them. From primary school to secondary school, they walked together, studied together, cried together, and laughed together. They made a promise under the big mango tree behind the village church. No matter what happens, we will always be together. No boys, no money, no marriage will separate us. They carved their initials. As they grew older, their dreams changed. Linda wanted to become a nurse. Hope wanted to be a businesswoman. Deborah planned to be a missionary, and Janet wanted to travel the world and work in fashion. But life had its plans. After secondary school, things started changing. Hope went to learn how to make shoes and bags. Deborah joined a Bible school. Linda got into a nursing school in the city. Janet traveled abroad for her university education. They still called and chatted sometimes, but the closeness was no longer the same. Life was happening fast. Years passed, and they all returned to Amuco as grown women. Linda was now working in the local hospital. Hope had a big shop in the village market. Deborah had started a small fellowship for young girls. Janet returned looking more beautiful and confident than ever. She had studied fashion design and modeling. She came back to stay and open a big fashion house. Then one day, Janet surprised them all. She called them together one evening. They met at her family compound, all excited to see one another in person again. The smiles, the jokes, the hugs, it felt like childhood again. "I have something to tell you," Janet said, holding their hands. "I'm getting married." They all screamed with joy, hugging her. "To who?" Deborah asked. "To Richard Adebayo," Janet replied with a wide smile. The name made everyone freeze. Richard Adebayo was one of the richest bachelors in the state. He owned hotels, drove flashy cars, and was always in the news. Every girl in town dreamt of him. Hope even once said she wished to meet him. "How did it happen?" Linda asked with a forced smile. "He saw me at a fashion show in Lagos and asked for my number." "The rest is history," Janet said shyly. Hope's face changed slightly, but she smiled again. Deborah looked down, silent. Linda nodded slowly. As days passed, the wedding preparation began. Janet chose Linda as her maid of honor, Hope as the chief bridesmaid, and Deborah to lead the prayer session. But something was changing. Hope became distant. She stopped picking Janet's calls and didn't come for dress fittings. When Janet visited her shop, she would pretend to be busy. Deborah, too, started warning Janet about marrying a rich man who might not share the same faith. Linda tried to stay calm, but inside, she was confused and hurt. Their friendship was breaking. One night, Hope called Linda. "I can't believe Janet thinks she's better than us now," she said. "Hope, it's not like that," Linda replied. "Then why didn't she tell us before?" "She just wants to show off. Do you know how many times I prayed for a man like Richard? Now he's marrying her. She didn't do anything wrong, Linda whispered. Let's see how long it lasts, Hope said and cut the call. Deborah too spoke during a fellowship meeting. Some girls allow money to blind their eyes. But riches without Christ is destruction. Everyone knew she was talking about Janet. The wedding day came. The town was painted in gold and white. The hall was grand, decorated like something out of a movie. People came from far and near. Janet wore a shining white gown. Her father held her hands proudly. Richard looked handsome in his tuxedo. But there was pain behind her smile. Linda stood beside her, doing her duty faithfully. Hope came late, wearing a dull face, and Deborah only came to pray. During the vows, tears filled Janet's eyes. Not because of the love in the room, but because her friends, the girls she grew up with, were no longer happy for her. The reception was big. Cameras flashed, music played, guests danced, but the table of her childhood friends was quiet. They didn't eat much, they didn't laugh. That night, as the celebration ended, Janet sat in her hotel suite, still in her gown. She looked at her phone, no message from Hope, no prayer from Deborah. Only Linda sent her a message, "You looked beautiful today. I'll always be your sister." Janet cried. Not tears of joy, but the pain of losing what mattered most. Months passed. Janet traveled abroad again with Richard. They posted beautiful pictures online, Dubai, Paris, Maldives. Hope scrolled through the pictures with bitterness. "She's lucky, but that doesn't mean she's better than us," she often said. Deborah focused more on her ministry. Linda remained the bridge. She visited Hope, called Deborah, and messaged Janet regularly. But things were never the same. 1 year later, they gathered again under the same old mango tree. It was Hope's mother's burial, and all four were present. Time had changed their faces, but the pain of distance between them was still fresh. Janet stood quietly after the burial and said, "Do you all remember this tree?" They looked up at the initials, still carved deep into the bark. "We promised not to let money or marriage separate us." But it did. Deborah looked down, ashamed. Hope had tears in her eyes. Linda held Janet's hand. "I missed you all," Janet whispered. "More than the world I married into." Silence wrapped them for a moment. Then slowly, Hope stepped forward and hugged Janet tightly. "I'm sorry," she said. "I was jealous. But I was hurting." Deborah joined them and said, "I judged you too quickly. I forgot love comes first." Tears flowed freely. That day, the mango tree witnessed something more powerful than success or sorrow, reunion. Janet spoke to them. Sometimes, blessings given to one can feel like betrayal to others. But real love, true friendship, is not about competition, it's about compassion. When jealousy tries to break what love built, may we always remember our roots. Because even riches fade, but hearts that heal together last forever. Watch out in part 2. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and like this story for more interesting story like this one.